VHF etiquette. I think it's worth talking about etiquette because it is something that we hear contravened frequently. The only people who say over and out are the Hollywood film stars. Well, it's the first morning after a really good night's sleep, and this is a beautiful anchorage. So peaceful, except for local fishermen. They literally descended upon us as we were laying our anchor. They came over screaming and shouting, getting very excited. We weren't in the mood yesterday, but this morning given them a couple of things, not too much. But of course these guys want cigarettes and we don't smoke, so not much we can do about that. But it sounds like they've had a very successful morning fishing, so he's just sorting his nets out.
Look down there, do you see all those crabs? They were on the snubber and on the chain, and they didn't want to get off. So up and down a bit, and they've got, look, there's one that's trying to get back on now. You see him?
Yeah.
Well, that was 2 days in one of the most sheltered anchorages I've ever experienced in my life. Absolutely no wind whatsoever, and it's actually quite nice to get out here and feel a bit of wind on your skin. But wow, is that a brilliant place with a Hollywood movie set backdrop. I mean, just stunning, and I wonder if we might go there again. Would be nice if we could.
The one thing I did do while in that anchorage was to install the VHF. We have had issues with our VHF now for quite some while, and as you saw previously, we sent Liz up the mast to run an auxiliary cable down the outside, down the rigging, take it into the cockpit. So I've now put the unit and powered it up in the cockpit. It's just sitting loose at the moment because I want to do a radio check. There's just one problem. No one monitors channel 16 in this area. So I've just tried to do a radio check, and either the VHF is still not working, or more than likely no one can hear me anyway. So of course this is all done for future longer passages, because on the coast I was never expecting to use it anyway, but of course it's important to have that. We do have the handheld. Obviously the range on that isn't as good, so it would be nice to get our main one up and running again. But we'll keep trying on channel 16 to see if there's anyone out there that can confirm that our radio works. At this point in the video we were supposed to cut to Liz saying, "Jamie, why do you keep saying channel 16 instead of channel 16? To which I reply, there is no such thing as channel 16, at least not verbally. But unfortunately, as you may know, Liz is not feeling too well at the moment, so I've got to do this little bit on my own. VHF etiquette. I think it's worth talking about etiquette because it is something that we hear contravened frequently, and hands up, we are guilty ourselves of abusing the VHF in the past.
Roger, roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Your VHF transmissions should be understood and they should be succinct. It is incumbent upon you to have it switched on and monitoring channel 16. It is used as a hailing and emergency channel only. It is not for conversation. Unlike single sideband SSB radio, you only need one license, and that license covers the whole boat. So providing you have one crew on board who has their VHF license, then everyone on board can use the VHF. To hail another boat, you would simply pick up the mouthpiece of the VHF, press the transmit button, say the boat name twice, your boat name twice, followed by over. Mystic Wind, this is Esper, Esper on channel 16, over. We always finish a transmission with over if we mean that we have finished our transmission but we are awaiting a response. This is where there's some confusion with over and out, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But hopefully the correct response should be Esper, Esper, this is Mystic Wind, please go to channel 72. Over. So it is incumbent upon the person responding to the initial hail to choose or select a channel that you should then move to. Your response should then be a confirmation that you understood which channel you were going to. So you would say something like, Mystic Wind, this is Esper going to channel 72, over. Once you've switched to channel 72, you would then start the hailing process all over again. Mystic Wind, this is Esper on channel 72, do you copy, over. Hopefully they'll respond and you can begin your transmission with the other boat. Bear in mind these transmissions are public and open, so anyone with a VHF can hear them. With this in mind, you may have other people wanting to use the channel, so you keep your conversation short, your transmissions succinct, and at the end of every transmission you would finish with the word over. Of course, if you finish the conversation, you would then end your transmission with the word out instead of over. So you would say something like, "This is Esper, returning to channel 16, out." You do not say over and out. That is a contradiction in terms and should only be used in stupid action movies.
Me and my boys will hit them from the south. Over and out.
In my naive arrogance as a younger sailor, I pulled up an old boy who kept finishing his transmissions with over and out. He was a registered SSB user and had been using ham radio for 30 odd years. He took umbrage at my arrogance and said, "We always say over and out," to which I said, "Well, you're wrong." But the point is, he was wrong. You don't say over and out. I think the easiest way to remember this is to think of over as a semicolon and out as a full stop. So you wouldn't put a semicolon next to a full stop in a sentence in the same way that you wouldn't say over and out, because over means I've finished my transmission but I'm waiting for a response, and out means I have finished my transmission and expect no further response.
Over. Roger. Huh? Roger, over. What?
There are many other words and terms and phrases that we use on the VHF. Remember, we are trying to be understood, but of course VHF can suffer from transmission problems, distances, weather interference. You could have a small antenna trying to broadcast to a commercial ship with a big antenna and so on. This is why we have the phonetic language, also called the spelling alphabet. Every crew member should know this off by heart. A can sound like E, which is why we say alpha and echo instead. We say affirmative and negative instead of yes and no. Another couple of words you may come across, Roger and Wilco, you may have heard of. Roger simply means I have understood your transmission. Wilco is an abbreviation of the words will comply. This means not only have I understood your transmission, but I will act upon it. Numbers are said separately. This is why we say channel 16 instead of 16. 16 could sound like 6 or it could sound like 18. Also, if you're using numbers in a sentence, you can use the word figures before the numbers. For example, my draft is figures 2 meters. And when spelling a word, it is helpful to say I spell. For example, this is Esper, I spell Echo Sierra Papa Echo Romeo. When you look at your VHF set, you'll see there's a whole load of channels, but many of them are reserved for particular services or for commercial shipping. So as leisure cruisers, we have a limited number of channels that we can use. This also changes depending on where you bought your set. Some sets are pre-programmed with some channels and other with other channels. For example, in the States, leisure cruisers may use 6.8, 6.9, 7.1, 7.2 and 7.8A, while in the UK we use 6, 8, 7.2 and 7.7. If you take your VHF operator's license course, which is normally just over 1 day, you'll learn many other things, like the difference between a Mayday, a Pan-Pan and a Securite, for example. A Mayday is only issued if there is an immediate threat to life. A Pan-Pan is issued if there is a non-threatening situation, and a Securite is issued if there is a hazard or danger to other shipping in the area. Remember, if you are underway, you should always monitor channel 16. Channel 16 is only ever used for hailing and for emergencies. Once you've got in contact with another vessel, you switch to one of the working channels. Finish every sentence with the word over, unless you have finished your conversation, in which case you would say out. You never say over and out. The only people who say over and out are the Hollywood film stars.
Lovely day to fly, huh, boys? Clown penis, over and out.
I just wanted to tell you the name of the little town we're going to It's called BADAS. B-A-D-A-S. I'm pronouncing it as BADAS. Oh shit, there's crap in the water. Hold on. Just approaching BADAS now. Actually following some channel markers. Haven't done that for a while. Channel markers into this little port. I get the impression it's going to be pretty industrial. One of the annotations on Navionics says that it's noisy. It's not going to be the best anchorage, but A, we'll have internet connection to upload our videos for you, and B, we may even be able to do a little bit of provisioning as well. Not sure. One of the reasons for coming down this way, by the way, is that we have had forecast some nice northwesterlies to take us east. And each day they keep dialing down the strength of these northwesterlies until eventually there's hardly a breath left, unfortunately. But the idea was to launch from here, get up to the tip up there, and then sort of head east with those northwesterlies. But not much is happening at the moment.
Coming into a port, first time in ages. Very different to our last place. Lots of industry, lots of noises, lots of stuff being put onto big boats, and Jamie's navigating through the middle. I better stop now, but yeah, couldn't be more different. It's still very rural. Sumbawa seems very undeveloped tourist-wise compared to certainly Lombok and I'm sure Bali, and I imagine Flores and Komodo, but we'll see. Second stop on Sumbawa.
Aeroplanes, police cars, trucks. Nice quiet anchorage, this one, isn't it? No, it does look, Liz is saying it looks beautiful, and it does actually. For about 270 degrees from all the way around here, it is rather pretty. But of course we've got the port here, and we've got a big road that goes all the way around in a loop, so every man and his dog is who's out on the road will be passing along here. But hey, we seem all right. Dropped in 10, back down to about 9 metres. Gets a bit shallow there, but this will do, won't it?
I like the sound of people. I like to hear the cars, even the sirens. I like to hear activity. There's stuff going on. People live here. They're working. Although today is Sunday, so perhaps not working so much. It's just great to feel like you're a part of it all. And this all feels very natural, very normal. Not any kind of. I don't think there's any kind of acceptance of tourism here. Well, not acceptance. No obvious sign of tourism here. So it's really nice. We're part of it all now. Well, that was one day and one night in the port of BADAS on Sumbawa. Very noisy, road kind of almost next to the boat, and lights all around us at night made for quite interesting jumps, because I kept thinking, oh my god, is that something? No, it's a lorry. And it sounds terrible, but actually I quite enjoyed it and slept really, really well. Very flat, nothing much doing as far as wind and water, so yeah, it was very safe, it was very good, I recommend it. Nothing, you can't really get ashore, you probably could if you tried, but there's nothing there particularly. Just good enough for us to get the videoing done, I mean editing of course, and a few bits and bobs on the boat. And today we're off to another anchorage. Not quite sure which one we're going to choose, it's going to depend on how the wind and the weather goes. We've got a load of weather out over here on the port side. Straight ahead's looking good. Oh yeah, because we were so close, we could really see nature, and despite it being a busy place and a port and commercial and all that, there's a lot of nature around. And this morning we saw very close to us a beautiful white-bellied sea eagle in the tree, preening itself, just having a good look round the whole area. I think Jamie may have got a photo. Couldn't get anything on this, but yeah, just sitting there, this glorious creature. Real privilege.
We've had a change of plan, mainly because, once again, there are no winds. There were supposed to be these northwesterlies, which were going to hit a good 15 knots. That and the current would have taken us nicely around the top of Moyo. This is the island of Moyo here. Around the top, and then ready to go around along the top of Sumbawa, where there are pretty strong currents and they all run in one direction. Once you go around that corner, you're committed to be going that way. As it is, we've ended up just with the engine on, motoring in swell, and we were against current. We now have a little bit with us. So anyway, what we've decided to do instead is to duck into the big bay of Sumbawa. This is where many people go and see the whale sharks. Apparently there's a family of whale sharks that live in this bay. And we just thought we would just potter around and find a nice little anchorage and just hang out and get to discover perhaps one of the villages here. There is what looks like a fjord-like channel, I suppose, with a dead end in the middle of Sumbawa, which we want to go and have a look at. So we thought we'd go there instead. As for those winds, they should be blowing at least 10 knots by now, with up to 15 by about 11 o'clock. Nothing at all.
Slight change of plans. We've decided to head into Teluk Saleh, which is the huge bay in the middle of Sumbawa, separating the two major sides to it. It's a massive area, and when you look close you can see all kinds of places potentially that could be good anchorages, and there's a whole lot going on around here. We're going down the side, the west side at the moment, and it looks like Kent or Sussex from the side, like rolling hills. Very, very pretty. And of course, just as we're coming towards the end of our journey, we're now getting good wind.
Well, we've changed our minds. We're actually just leaving this anchorage because the internet was non-existent and we've got a couple of things to do. But it's a shame because that anchorage there is possibly the most English vista we have seen to date. From the low-lying hills to, well, the smell of cow dung. The smell of cow dung was very pungent as we entered in there. It was a nice little spot actually, no swell, nothing at all. Maybe we'll go back there on our way back up once we've done our internet-y things. We're now going to head down towards the end of this fjord where there is a little village and gets a little bit shallower and easier to anchor.